I'm just sitting back and hoping all of the misinformation and all of the hate that has been coming out of this, just blown out of proportion, will subside soon because the intention of the motion was to unite the community under humanity and to basically humanize the conflict, that there are real people getting really affected. And we have families here who will tell you their aunt died of starvation. So things like that. And I hope that this will subside, the hate will subside, and the message of unity will and humanity will prevail. And I hope that people who were watching have learned something about this conflict and learned a way on how they can reach out and help their neighbors in the community who are going through a lot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Radical Center. This week's episode, we have a pretty exciting conversation that I think has been on a lot of people's minds. This is a conversation that's consistently happened, especially over the past 2 years in many different spaces. And we're going to actually get to the bottom of it. Joining me today is Councillor Sameera Ali, who's a regional councillor for Milton in Ward 4, representing Ward 4. Welcome, Sameera. This is the first time we have you on the Radical Center, and it's very exciting to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I have seen a few of your episodes, and I always found them really relevant and to the point. And someone who really herself is in Radical Center, I really appreciate you highlighting this spectrum of politics because it's often overlooked, but this is where the silent majority lies.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And thank you for noticing that because a lot of people don't really see that. Funny thing is, I always say, and this is completely off topic, but I always say that the more to the extremes you are, the more you're going to get views and you're going to get attention because that's what gets attention. But centrists don't really get a lot of attention, yet the majority of people are actually in the center, which is why there's this whole, difference that we see between what we see on social media and what, voting results actually look like. It's because it's not really a representative reality. So let's get right into it. This recently, you have decided to put forward a motion at Regional Council that talks about Gaza. And for those of you listening, I'm sure most of you are aware because I've talked about it several times. Gaza is very close, near and dear to my heart. So I'm happy that you did that on a personal level. But I think there's a broader conversation to be had. And it's a broader conversation that's kind of been had, or like people are kind of trying to talk about it, but hasn't really been fully fleshed out, which is really the role of municipalities when it comes to an international issue, such as, what's going on in Gaza. First of all, let's talk about the motion. Tell me what the motion's about.
So the motion is about it's an advocacy motion, obviously. And I said this many times. Obviously, the issue is an international issue and it belongs at the federal level. I fully agree with that. Having said that, on local councils, we always advocate to our federal counterparts, the provincial counterparts, asking for things that are relevant to our community. And so this motion is an advocacy motion that is asking the mayor on behalf of council to request and advocate to our Prime Minister a two-way arms embargo on Israel so that our taxpayer dollars are not funding a genocide. And it is also asking for improvement in the visa policies for Palestinian families coming here as refugees to get the same kind of dignity, respect, and support that Ukrainian or Syrian or Afghani refugees get, because there is some difference there. And in the end, it's asking the town of Milton to sign a pledge, which is the anti-apartheid pledge, which in essence is for municipalities to sign, to commit to having a community that is apartheid-free, which truly is, discrimination-free, racism-free, and all kinds of hate-free. So that is the motion.
Okay, tell us a little bit of a background on the anti-apartheid pledge. Is this championed by a particular organization? Who's in charge of this, or
So
who's
this
leading?
organization is the apartheid pledge is modeled after the South African apartheid whole situation, and this first pledge was signed in Canada in Burnaby, BC. And that's where the Canadian movement has started. The pledge was discussed on Brampton Council and many other councils all over Canada. I'm not aware of their passing or failing. I know that the motion failed in town of Milton on Monday night with a very close 4-5 vote.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit, and I know you won't be speaking specifically to your colleagues' positions, so we're not asking for that. But tell me a little bit of why would this motion fail in Milton specifically? We know Milton has a very diverse population. It's a wonderful little town close to Mississauga. I'm a Mississauga girl, so but I like Milton a lot, and it's a very diverse population. Tell us, why would a motion like this have a hard time passing?
Well, I believe there are a lot of preconceived notions. I know that there's always two very strong emotional sides to every argument, every conflict, obviously. So that is not something new or strange. But when the mover, as in myself, has explained again and again that this is uniting people in humanity, and that this is talking about fairness for Palestinian refugees who come to Canada. This is about standing against discrimination and racism for everybody. Then I don't understand how that could not be supported. I am surprised, just as you are. I think people are reading too much into it. I think it has been misconstrued by some organizations as being anti-Semitic, useless, doesn't belong on municipal councils. That's okay. I mean, I cannot control how people interpret my words, but I do know, and I commit to my own intentions, which I have clarified again and again to my colleagues. But it is okay. It is their prerogative, what they have chosen. My cause and reasoning for bringing this to my Milton Council was to make sure that my council has an opportunity to open doors for Palestinian families, Muslims, Jews, Christians who live here, have relatives who've been suffering for 2 years, to be heard, to be seen, to be validated, and to have an opportunity for the broader public to tune in and listen to those real life stories that the delegates shared. We had a doctor who works in the ER, Dr. Salman Khalid, come in and share his experience being in Gaza, helping, as a volunteer physician there, doing amputations on babies without anesthesia. Really moving stories, that horrific things that you would never even imagine. But we need to hear these things because that is what will trigger our humanity. It is so easy to sit so far away from issues like these and to just not think of them as people, to just think of them as a news item. And when you have people coming in, sharing their real lived experiences being in Gaza, that actually humanizes the conflict and makes people understand what the intensity is of the whole situation. So my efforts to educate the broader community and to provide a safe space for these families to come and share their thoughts. And I think I have achieved that goal, even though the motion did not pass.
Yeah, so let's zoom out a little bit. We hear this time and time again. Why do municipalities get involved in international issues? Right now, I've seen that Mayor Olivia Chow has gotten some pushback for using the word genocide. We've seen other similar motions, maybe not the exact same wording, but similar motions pass at different municipalities, Mississauga being one of them. when it comes to a ceasefire motion. I think Brampton has had similar motions on Gaza. So if we were to zoom out a little bit, I'll tell you my perspective, and this is why I think these issues actually have every business being at a regional or a municipal council. The reason why is because the job of a municipality, of elected officials in a municipality, isn't only to administer government in that region. So yes, your job is to take care of the roads and make sure the garbage is picked up and blah blah blah, all those things that come with administering the role and the duties of government. So taxation and providing services at that level. But I also think the job is to represent that community to higher levels of government, right? And if an issue becomes really important in that community, and I always say that all politics is local, all issues is local. The price of an orange is a political issue, right? And the municipality may not control the price of an orange, but they're going to have a lot of people suffering because of the fluctuating prices in oranges. Now, obviously, I'm talking very specifically for some reason about oranges. It just came up. But I think this issue, like many other issues, have every right and every business to be at the municipal level for that reason, because your job is to carry a message, right? You're hearing a message from a community, whether it's about concern about something that's going on miles across the ocean, or some local issue that has federal impact, or two-way transit, that you want to talk about on the Milton line to the provincial government. Like, why are you talking about the GO train on at the municipal level? Because it impacts your residents, right? So that's my perspective on it. But what would you say?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Everything we do, like I said before, it is very common practice to advocate to different levels of government. Sometimes we advocate to the school boards and we say, please open your kiss and rights, because if you don't, our staff are giving out tickets, and that's a problem. And so I believe there is nothing stopping any council from bringing any issue that is even international to discuss locally on councils, because it's an advocacy piece, because we have a huge big diaspora who is affected by that conflict. If I have a big diaspora of Sudanese folks in my community, I am going to bring a motion to give them an opportunity to come and share what they are going through, for the community to learn about it, to see how we can help and support. I think our councils are community centers. I know there are rules, so staying within those rules and bylaws, I think the councils belong to the people and the community, and not staff, and not the mayor or the council members.
Yeah, and it's not just about moving an agenda forward. Because then why would you need elected officials to do that? I have a lot of opinions that I'll leave outside of this episode about school board trustees and all that. But again, if your job is just to move an agenda forward, you don't need elected people to move an agenda forward, right? An elected representative is supposed to represent
Be a
the
bridge. Yeah.
to be a bridge between that level and the community. And if this is what you're hearing from the community, then of course you have every right to bring it up. So wonderfully done. What's next? What do you want to do next?
Well, I'm just sitting back and hoping all of the misinformation and all of the hate that has been coming out of this, just blown out of proportion, will subside soon, because the intention of the motion was to unite the community under humanity and to basically humanize the conflict, that there are real people getting really affected. And we have families here who will tell you their aunt died of starvation, so things like that. And I hope that this will subside, the hate will subside, and the message of unity and humanity will prevail. And I hope that people who were watching have learned something about this conflict and learned a way on how they can reach out and help their neighbors in the community who are going through a lot.
Now, there was it's important to mention that there was a motion that was similar that was passed in June. Tell us
Yes.
about that motion and what is the difference between that one and this one and why that one passed, this one didn't.
Okay, so that's a great question. And that motion was just reiterating our support for the joint statement that was released in May between the governments of UK, Canada, and France, I believe, in which we fully acknowledge that the hostages should be released, that what Israel has been through is unfair and it is horrific, and that Israel has its right to defend itself. But the retaliation by the Israeli forces is disproportionate. And so we advocated for food to go through, to human aid to go through, and that was passed unanimously, even though we did criticize Israel a lot in that motion as well. So this is basically a part two of that effort. It builds on that, and it is modeled after what is the reality now and what the situation is now. And so advocacy does not end with one motion. If the issue continues, so does the advocacy. It's like saying, oh, we just, sent a letter to the prime minister asking him to slash HST on housing. And that never happened. So do we just sit back and say, oh, we just sent one motion and that should be enough? Or do we send another letter stating more realities of today and advocating more strongly to our government, asking them to make life easier for young people in community to buy a house? So just sharing an example of how advocacy continues and should continue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for that, and thank you so much for joining us, folks. Here you have it. This is the answer. If you've ever sat around wondering why municipal councils sit around and talking about international issues, Gaza or otherwise, and why they spend all that time debating those issues and putting motions forward and writing letters, this is why. Because all politics is local, and it's their responsibility to represent their communities to higher or lower levels of government, where there are issues to be represented. Thank you so much for joining us again today. And Sameera, it was lovely having you, and hopefully we'll have you again.
Thank you so much, Noka. I would love to come again and talk about very centrist issues with you. I'm really passionate political myself, and I really enjoy the work you're doing. So keep up the good work, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.